Hey everybody, it's Matthew of Mr. Domestic. This video will focus on what I'm calling the kaleidoscope weave. That kind of looks like when you look through a kaleidoscope and twist it, how there's definitely some pattern there, but it's pretty abstract. And that's what this weave is. There's order and a pattern to my madness, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. So before we get into the content, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And anytime you're having fun or learn a tip, make sure to give this a thumbs up. So now with this weave, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about color and my color selection before I get into the process of the weave. Quite honestly, the first time that I did this weave, it was an experiment for myself to throw all choices and decisions out the window and go entirely by random. I quite literally received a box of 16 solid fabrics that I pulled out of the box in whatever order they were in. I put them on the board and it created this magic. And from there, I did two separate partner weaves where one was all warm colors, one was all cool colors, and that was equally amazing. And from there, the sky is the limit. I feel that this is the one weave that is kind of like an abstract art piece, where even if two of the colors don't necessarily look awesome together, whenever you weave them in this pattern, it will look amazing. So all that self-doubt needs to go out the window. Go for it and get ready to have some fun with me. So now we're gonna get into the process of the weave. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is just pick your colors, however many colors you want. I picked 7 in this 10 by 10 grid because I thought that would be totally rad. And then from there, once you pick the colors, you need to decide what order you want, because that's the order you're going to be stuck with for the entire weave. And once the order is decided, then what you're going to need to do is to start laying it out on the board and pinning it in that order. And just go through the entire flow of the colors. And then once you get to the end, like from here when you get to the yellow all the way to the red, you're going to boomerang back going the other way. And then you're going to toggle back and forth as many times as you need to finish that first layer and fill up the board. And then from there, what you are going to do is weave in the second layer with a similar flow of the colors, and then weave in the third layer. And if you're like, what is he talking about through all the terminology of fabric weaving, then you probably want to go back to my fundamentals of fabric weaving videos on my YouTube channel and give those a look before even attempting this weave. For this weave, I started out with 1 inch with the fabric strips that I pressed into 1/2 inch with the fabric strips. And I have my wefty. I'm using my 1/2 inch wefty. And then I have my purple thing. I love that purple thing. It helps me get into the grooves, and my pins that I'm going to use to pin both the interfacing and my strips. And I've already done a video for y'all on how to set up the board and draw the triaxial grid, so I'm not going to repeat it here, but I will show you that I'm putting the interfacing on now, and then I'm going to skip to laying the strips down. Like, I'm not going to show you like all of this layer, laying each individual strip, but I wanted to show you here that my very first strip was one of the end strips that I didn't put in the very center. I put it askew to the left, and I just find that a little bit more visually interesting than putting it center. But if you want to make it dead center, I've done that on other weaves. That's always an option. So I always start with wherever I want that main focal point to be, which will be one of the ends, because then the others will fan out from that. So that's the main point I wanted to show you in this. Now I'm going to fast forward it so you can at least see me laying down the strips and what that boomerang action looks like. Yay! The first layer is all done, and then you can see the flow going from the right to the left. And I always start my second layer on the right, and I marked the bottom point where I want it to go. And these are going to go on the 30-degree angle, and there's a pattern here. It goes 1, 2, 3, then it starts over again, 1, 2, 3, then it continues all the way to the top. You can see more in my tumbling blocks video on the fundamentals of fabric weaving, but you can start with whatever color you want to. I here am going to start with that honeydew yellow. It's the one on the very end on the right, and it's the lightest of the 3 yellows. You can start anywhere, really. It begins with over 1, under 2, over 1, under 2, over 1, under 2, and you just continue that pattern all the way through. And once you get to the end, then you want to line it up to either directly onto one of the 30-degree lines, or wherever the start is. If it's a little bit off of the line, make sure that it's similarly parallel all the way through that 30-degree. And then you're going to go ahead and pin it, and make sure to pin it at an angle, and then trim off the excess and pin that one at an angle also. And then you're going to go on to the next one. So from there, you can go on either side of that lighter yellow, whether it's the more vibrant yellow or the more saturated yellow. I'm choosing to go with the turmeric, which is the more saturated one. That's the end point. And this one is going to start differently. It's going to start under 1, over 1, then under 2, over 1, under 2, over 1, under 2, and it continues with that pattern all the way until that you get to the end. Essentially, you're just moving this over 1 to the left, the pattern from below, and you'll start to see the diamonds shift to the left. That's the direction the diamonds should be going. And if you don't see that, then start over, rewind, and watch it again. Then you'll pin this, and then you'll cut off the excess, and then pin that at an angle, and then make sure that everything butts up against each other. And as you go with the second layer, you probably want to straighten out the layer 1. Otherwise, it's going to continue to push over to the left. And then the next one, which is going to be the third strip in this pattern of 1, 2, 3, I'm going to do another one of those lighter yellows, but this one is going to start under 2, over 1, under 2, over 1, under 2, over 1, all the way to the left. And you're going to continue with that pattern. And this essentially is, once again, moving the pattern from right below over 1 to the left. And this will continue the diamonds shifting to the left as you move up. And then this one, you're going to pin it again at an angle. Then you're going to pin the bottom one at an angle too whenever you cut off that excess. And then from here, once you've made sure that all of the strips are butted up against one another, you're going to move on to the next one, which is going to be that vibrant canary yellow. And you're going to start this pattern over again. And that will start with the very bottom one that you did, which is going to be over 1, under 2, over 1, under 2, over 1, under 2. And you'll continue this all the way to the left. And I'm not going to show you every one of the strips in layer 2 because this video would last forever, but I am going to fast forward it so that you can see it as I weave it. And if this step confuses you or if it's harder to visualize with these thinner half-inch strips, then definitely go on to the Fundamentals of Fabric Weaving video if you haven't seen it already, because those strips are thicker and you can see those a lot better. Okay, honestly, even with just layer 2 done, it looks pretty bombastic to me. And, like, you could use the brain power, honestly. And you could use, like, Illustrator or something to try and figure out what this would potentially look like. But I can't, and I like the mystery of it, and it's pretty cool. But just wait until layer 3 happens. But first, I want you to follow these little backward Z's, or like an electric S, because that's what you're going to weave under in layer 3. And once I put the few backward Z's on, I'll zoom in so that you can see it up close, because this is where I use the wefty and that purple thing to maneuver through all of the backward Z's. And it's pretty neato, and you might want to watch this a couple times if this is your first video, because you're looking for this shape and it's harder to find in the kaleidoscope weave. But don't worry, I am going to zoom it in for you. And honestly, you can start with whatever color. I'm starting yellow, but I'm going to go in a different direction with it, so it's not going to mirror the other side. So now I'm going to, with the wefty, and I'm bringing it in close up for you, go under each Z, and then over 2 verticals, and then under another backward Z, and over 2 verticals, and then under another backward Z, and you're going to follow that entire pattern. It's probably easier, since the colors are all differentiated here, to look for the 2 verticals that you're going to go over. And honestly, before you start weaving, it might help you to use washi tape like I did here to create the backward Z's before you weave through. But after you do this a couple times, you'll get used to it, and it might be better if you've never done a triaxial weave to start with the 2-inch that'll turn into 1-inch strips, because it's easier to maneuver. And this weave is, I would call this one probably an intermediate weave and not a beginner weave. But if you want this to be your beginner, then go for it. Ain't no shame. And I am going to do real time one more strip going in the 3rd layer. And let me move the Z's for you so that you can see them again. And I'll zoom in again as I go under each one of the Z's and then over the verticals. Let me put this one here. Lift this one up for you. I'll put it here. See, it's a little trippy on the eyes to find them, but you'll find it eventually. And make sure to get the Z's, or the backward Z's, right next to it. I've noticed whenever people ask me questions because they're not getting the triaxial weave done right in the 3rd layer, then more often than not, they're skipping a row right next to where that yellow is. And it just doesn't look right. It doesn't create the tumbling blocks pattern. So now I'm going to grab one of the colors on either end of that yellow, and I'm going to weave that into the 2nd layer, and it's going to be cool. So now I'll zoom in again. So I'm going under, and that's just a partial backward Z. So sometimes you're looking for the partial backward Z and not a full backward Z. So it's under the backward Z, over the 2 verticals, under the backward Z, over the 2 verticals. See, this one I'm having trouble. And that's what that purple thing is good, is like, it is so small that my fingers won't be able to lift any of that up. So I kind of get that purple thing, and then you can use anything. Like sometimes I'll use chopsticks, sometimes I'll use like a pen, whatever I have handy, just to lift some of the strips in that backward Z, because the wefty might get a little caught, and it just helps. And then eventually you'll get into a rhythm of it. So, yay! I'm finished with this one. This one's going to go all the way through, and yay! Now I'm going to lift off the backward Z's after I pin it and trim it, and I'm going to fast forward the rest of it so that you can visualize it as it's happening and watch it unfold. And quite literally, when you do this for yourself, it's going to be magic, because this layer my brain absolutely cannot comprehend what it's going to look like in the end. So I have a video on removing the weave from the board, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it in real time for this video just so that you can see it and don't have to go back to it. So have your steam iron on medium heat, high steam, and press it just to give it enough of an adherence to the tack of the fusible interfacing underneath. And then with washi tape that's got a lot of tack to it, or masking tape, box this off the perimeter with the tape, as so. And this can also, if you haven't drawn underneath on the interfacing the shape, this can be used as a stitch line guide whenever you stitch the perimeter for the final securing stage. And so this box is done. And now next I'm just going to remove the pins, and I'm going to remove it in real time so that you can see that I am absolutely not scared to remove these. I'll speed this up so you don't have to see the whole thing in real time. Okay, now I have removed all of the pins, and either one of these steps, whether the tape or the setting it with the mid-heat steam iron, will do enough to get it to the point where you can flip it over onto an ironing surface. And I have that right here, and I flip it to where the weave side is down, and then I'll turn the temperature up to high heat, and then I'll press it just to really set it, the entire weave in to the interfacing. And it doesn't take long. It does the magic really quickly. And then, ta-da! I'll show you this last thing. Woo, 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 woo. Now you take this over to your sewing machine and stitch the line like in the other videos. And then you're good to go. You have an amazing woven textile. Yay! Yay! You have learned how to do the kaleidoscope weave. Ta-da! Now run with this. Trust me, you will come out with something that you never could have planned for, never could have visualized, but will blow your friends and family away. So if you enjoyed this video, got some tips or tricks, laughed, then make sure to give this video the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Keep it positive, y'all. Mr. Domestic out. Thanks for watching my video. You can subscribe on the right, just click on my face, and watch some of my other videos on the left.